Hai Prof, apa khabar? Hai Yusri.
Hai, Assalamualaikum. Prof.
Apa khabar?
Prof Muna.
Hai Yusri.
Sehat ke semua?
Hai, Assalamualaikum.
Prof.
Apa?
Prof Muna.
Kenapa?
Sehat ke semua?
Hai, Assalamualaikum. Sekejap, kenapa bergema?
Prof Muna.
Kenapa?
Sehat ke semua?
Hai, Assalamualaikum.
Prof Muna.
Sorry, bergema lah Prof. Atas.
Suara ya bergema?
Tadi bergema. Ni dah okey dah. Ni dah okey.
Okey.
Prof Muna dah ada dah kot? Kita tunggu dulu.
Prof Muna dah ada, so tunggu student masuk lah.
Okey.
Dan pukul 2.30 kita mula, insyaAllah. Ya Prof?
Boleh 2.30. So kita settlekan yang ni Prof. Nanti Prof dengan tim Prof uruslah documentation ya.
Ya betul. InsyaAllah.
Sebab kita dia cakap satu CJ tu untuk 1 tahun kan? Rasanya?
Satu untuk 1 tahun.
1 tahun. So okey lah Prof. Kita boleh rotate lagi untuk tahun seterusnya guna ECO415 lagi lah kot.
InsyaAllah. Cuma lepas ni kena buat report lah.
Report tu nanti Prof tengok, kalau apa-apa Prof bagi tahu.
Ya. Saya dengan ada 2 orang lagi pensyarah akan buat. And then bila settle dokumen tu kita hantarlah dekat CIDL buat report.
Okey lah tu Prof, apa-apa Prof bagi tahu.
Okey, baik.
Saya daripada pagi tadi Prof tak habis lagi.
Apa dia? Program?
Program. Tadi bawa habis dengan kisah tadi, finance.
Okey. Saya pun student program dengan persatuan. Sempat masuk ada talks dengan persatuan ekonomis di UiTM Kelantan. Bersama dengan Aflin. So sorry lah Prof, lambat sikit bagi link tu.
Ekonomis bukan persatuan yang lecturer tu
Apa dia?
Ekonomis bukan persatuan pensyarah finance tu?
Bukan. Kalau kita dekat Kelantan, persatuan pelajar. Pelajar.
Yang seripat program.
Yeah.
Saya suruh student saya masuk dekat YouTube kot. Dr. Muna dah ready?
Hai. Hai Doktor. Assalamualaikum.
Okay.
Ya.
Kita mula dalam 2 minit lagi.
Okey. Doktor, saya tukar ni, saya share screen sekarang ke macam mana?
Nanti dulu.
Okey.
Oh, saya pula yang tak tukar kolaborasi. Okey, boleh kita mula sekarang? AJK? Aflin, boleh saya mula sekarang? Dr. Zati, boleh kita mula? Okey.
Boleh Prof. Boleh mula sekarang.
Okey, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum. Okey, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dan salam sejahtera kepada semua. Selamat petang. Diharapkan agar semua yang menyertai program ini akan terus kekal sihat dan bertenaga serta ceria selalu. Okey, sebelum kita memulakan program pada hari ini dan bagi memberkati lagi majlis ilmu kita, mari kita bersama-sama membaca umul kitab Al-Fatihah. Alhamdulillah, pada petang yang indah ini kita sama-sama dapat meluangkan masa dan berkumpul untuk mendengar satu topik yang sangat menarik pada pandangan saya, khususnya kepada ahli akademik dan juga para pelajar bersama penceramah yang hebat yang didatangkan secara maya. Tajuk webinar kita pada hari ini yang berfokus kepada program pengajaran kolaborasi ECO415 bertumpukan kepada makroekonomi iaitu inflasi. Sebelum itu, saya Muhammad Khairi Ismail sebagai moderator anda pada hari ini ingin menitipkan setinggi-tinggi penghargaan dan terima kasih kepada Jabatan Ekonomi UiTM Cawangan Kelantan dengan kerjasama Jabatan Ekonomi UiTM Cawangan Terengganu di atas penganjuran program ini. Bagi meneruskan program pada hari ini, saya akan menjemput penceramah kita seorang yang hebat bagi meneruskan perkongsian ilmu berkaitan peraplikasian konsep dan inflasi. Tetapi sebelum itu, izinkan saya menerangkan sedikit latar belakang penceramah kita pada hari ini. Orang cakap kalau kita tak kenal memang kita tak izinkanlah, maksudnya di sini kita nak kenal juga siapa penceramah kita pada hari ini. Okey. Penceramah kita pada hari ini adalah Dr. Siti Nurul Munawwarah Roslan daripada Teller University. Apa khabar Doktor? Sihat?
Sihat, Alhamdulillah.
Okey, sebelum tu izinkan saya baca sedikit latar belakang Dr. Siti Nurul. Okey, beliau merupakan pensyarah ekonomi di Teller University dan mendapat ijazah sarjana muda dan juga sarjana ekonomi daripada Universiti Melaya. Pada tahun 2002, beliau telah menerima ijazah Doktor Falsafah dalam bidang ekonomi pembandaran, urban economics, dan kajiannya lebih tertumpu kepada kajian ekonomi pembandaran, ekonomi pembangunan dan kajian berkaitan isi rumah. Beliau juga mempunyai 5 tahun pengalaman industri sebagai eksekutif sumber manusia di salah sebuah organisasi yang saya rasa agak besar sebenarnya, agak hebat, iaitu di Top Globe. Dan selepas beberapa tahun di industri, beliau memulakan karier sebagai ahli akademik pada tahun 2014. Sekarang beliau bertanggungjawab sebagai pensyarah dalam bidang ekonomi kewangan, wang dan juga perbankan, dan juga mengajar subjek mikroekonomi di Teller University. Okey, tanpa membuang masa lagi, izinkan saya menjemput penceramah kita iaitu Dr. Siti Nurul Munawwarah untuk berkongsi input-input berkaitan topik kita pada hari ini iaitu inflasi. Dipersediakan.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and also good afternoon to everyone, and especially Dr. Kari and also Dr. Zurati. Thank you, Dr. Kari, for the introduction. Okay, please allow me to share the screen, yeah?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So, hi everyone. Okay, I'm Dr. Munawwarah here. Okay, today I'm going to I will be a panel for today for the topic about inflation. Okay, I hope that this topic will be macam menarik lah untuk you all. Okay, so because this topic is a current issue, right? Okay, so okay, so actually we have sorry guys, dia lari sikit. Doctor, can you see the sharing screen or not? Because I couldn't see the screen. Ada share screen tak?
Belum, Doktor.
Oh ya ke? Sebab saya tak nampak dia sharing screen lah.
Cuba tekan pada yang anak panah yang ke atas tu, present tu. Doktor, present now tu. Sekejap, mungkin kita ada sedikit masalah teknikal. Okay. Boleh Doktor? Dah nampak. Okay, good. Very good. That's nice.
Okay, alright. Sorry for the issue just now. Okay, sorry, yeah. Okay, alright. So, okay. So we have seen and heard about economic problems, okay, particularly in the inflation problems, okay. So everyone is actually, we can see that everyone is stresses about the inflation-related rise in good prices, okay. And then actually the issues is rising, the issues of rising consumer prices that will affect the household in one of the entire world of that currently dealing with, all right. So that is actually what exactly is the inflation problem. So you can see here, kalau kita tengok dekat news kan, so many news about inflation and also many people like macam macam berungut is about the price, it keep increasing and everyone is look like burdened with the price increase, right? Okay, so even the social media pun mewar-warkan about the inflation rate has increased and about the price has increased. Okay, so today the outline for today topic here is so this is the outline for today, okay, like the lecture, where I'm going to explain about define how we can define inflation and types of inflation. All right, and also I'm going to explain about how we can differentiate between a cost push inflation and also demand pull inflation. And also we're going to see how we do the calculation on the inflation rate. And also we're going to explore about the effect of inflation and also the measure to control on the inflation. Okay, all right. Okay. So before we proceed in depth about the topic, we should know how to define the inflation. All right. So inflation is actually we can define. So every day we heard about inflation, but some people they don't know what is the definition of inflation. How we can define the inflation? Okay. So inflation can be defined as a continuous increase in the general price level of goods and services in the economy. Okay. Right, and all right. So you can see here, okay, that the impact of increase in the price level for goods and services. Okay, before this you can see the big you can buy a big burgers, and then now suddenly the size of burger getting smaller, right? Okay, so you can see from the shopping trolley there. Okay, so you can see the huge difference between the expenses in 1998, right? So between 1998 and also 2014. Okay, so we assume that we have $20 right now. Okay, so with the $20 in 1998, you can see the trolley have a big amount of a product that consumer can buy. Okay, so you can nampak trolley dia penuh, right? So and then but compared to 2014, okay, sadly but true, with the amount of $20, we can getting a lesser. The amount of a product that we can buy is getting lesser. So daripada banyak tinggal sikit je. Because of what? Because of the price that keep increasing with the same amount of $20, right? Okay, so which is this explain is where the currency they can buy only a few units of goods and services when the price has increased. Okay, so that's how the truth about the inflation. Okay, so consumer purchasing power actually getting lesser due to the inflation when the price has increased and the purchasing power has reduced. So macam trolley ni kan they explain about from the big amount that we can buy, and then suddenly the amount of goods and services that we can buy is getting lesser. That is due to the inflation and due to also the price increase. Okay, so that's why we said inflation is a part of the macroeconomic problem. So I think everyone will wish inflation will never happen, where we can find everything is cheap, right? Okay. Okay, so actually inflation not only affect the price, but they also affect on the salary, debt, saving, and also interest rate. Okay, which is I will explain later on. All right, so we can see that inflation doesn't just affect the price, but it's actually affect on the salary, debt, saving, and also interest rate. Okay, I still remember my mom said, right, during her time, that time ticket for cinema is around 3 to 4 ringgit only, and the salary during that time is I think around 1,000 ringgit. Okay, so but then people will still argue that okay lah, then price keep increasing right now, and together with the wages, so should be a problem. Okay, so that is the question. Should be a problem because okay, sekarang ni okay we can see that the wages has increasing, and okay lah sama lah the price has increased, but should be a problem with that, of course, because sometimes okay the price will keep increasing continuously, but not necessarily with the same rate. Okay, so let's say your salary has increased, okay, and actually the increase in the salary is not parallel to the increase of price. Okay, so it can cause you have to put aside about some of your saving and lead to higher debt. Okay, when you have a very limited of cash. Okay, so sebab kalau orang kata oh tak apalah, memang dululah zaman dulu the price lower because of the salary also lower. Now the salary that increase much, and then of course harga barang akan meningkat, tapi the problem is because of the price have increased continuously, but the wages, the salary increase tak terlalu banyak. Okay, so that's why the concern about the inflation. All right, okay. So to measure the interest rate, okay, so we know that how what are the formula, how we can calculate or to measure the inflation rate. Okay, so the inflation rate here is the formula is the CPI current year minus with CPI previous year. Okay, so the CPI current year minus with CPI previous year divide by CPI previous year with times with 100. Okay, so here the measuring of inflation rate, okay, actually is about how the consumer used to measure the rate of inflation using the CPI. Okay, so CPI is actually we call as a cost of living index. So CPI is a consumer price index. So before we proceed to calculating on the inflation, so we have to calculate first on the CPI. So kadang-kadang kita tahu what is the CPI? Okay, it's consumer price index. So what is the consumer price index? Consumer price index actually we want to see the cost of living index. All right. Okay. All right. So from this part, the chart here, okay. This is a consumer price index. Okay. Where it's actually measure the average of prices typical urban family of four. How they pay for the goods and services they purchase. Okay, so that is actually the consumer price index. Okay, before we go for the calculation of a measurement of inflation, we have to see we have to know what is the CPI and how we calculate a CPI. Okay, so the CPI is actually how the measures of the average of the price that urban family of four they pay for the goods and services they purchase. Okay, so this chart show the composition of the basket of goods used to create the CPI. Okay, so here you can see from the chart here, in Malaysia, the most important categories in the consumer price index are actually food and non-alcoholic beverages, which is contribute to 32% of total weight. Okay, and then the housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels is actually 25% of total weight, and also include with transportation. Okay, the others percentage is transportation, communication, recreational, and also culture, which is contribute to 60%, 7%, and 5% respectively. And also the furnishing, household equipment, and also the routine household maintenance also contribute to 5% and also 4%. And also the remaining components are actually restaurant and also hotels at 4%, and also the miscellaneous goods and services at 7%. Okay, so here is how the Malaysian, okay, the measure in Malaysia, it shows that how they measure on the consumer price index, and where we can see the food and non-alcoholic beverages is contribute to the highest one. Okay, because that's why when increase in the price of food, it's actually can cause to burden to the family. Okay, to burden to the household because increase in the food. Okay, because food and non-alcoholic beverages is the highest consumption on the household. Okay. Okay, so on the pricing, the price level, and also inflation. Okay, the first step, because we have to know how they constructing the CPI. Okay, the first step in constructing the CPI is actually they choose what is known as a CPI basket. Okay, so the first thing they have to do is selecting the CPI basket. Okay, and also the second after they select on the CPI basket. Okay, based on the weight is now, right. Okay, the how they pay on the food and beverages, the percentage. Okay, and then they go and conducting a monthly price survey. So they go to the ground and they do the conduct survey on to see on the price level. And then after they get the information and all the data, they will calculate on the CPI. Okay, so actually the constructing the CPI, actually the goal is to make relative importance of the item of the CPI basket that equal to that of average urban household budget. Okay, so for example, on the CPI here, for example, because people spend more on money on food and non-alcoholic beverages, so the CPI will give higher percentage on the food and non-alcoholic beverages, compare more than the weight on the housing price and also the transportation. Okay, so that's how before we go for the measuring the inflation rate. Okay, so we have to go first to the ground to see on because the CPI basket, and then they go for the ground, and then they go and look into the price, and then they go for the calculating the CPI. Then only that they can go for calculation for the inflation. All right. Okay, so here is a simple economy. Okay, a simple economy how we can show the how the calculation of the CPI. Okay, so how we can really understand what is a CPI actually. Okay, so in a simple economy, we just we assume there are two product in economy supaya macam senang kita nak see the different ataupun how we can explain in an easy way. Right? Okay, in a simple economy that people consume only orange and also haircuts. Okay, so imagine that economy kita ada dua je. Okay, we have oranges and haircuts. So the CPI basket is 10 for orange and also 5 haircuts here. Okay, so kalau you nampak dekat sini the item, the oranges and also the haircuts, the quantity is 10 and 5 for haircuts, and with the price $1 for oranges and $8 for the haircuts. Okay, so then we calculate on the cost of CPI basket. Okay, so for oranges we get the $10 and the haircuts we have $40. So total cost of the CPI basket at the base period here actually is $50. Okay, all right. So this is this is price based on 2010. Okay, so we assume that 2010 is a base period. Okay, in calculating the CPI. Okay. And the table 22.1 here, okay, it shows the fixed CPI basket. Okay, fixed CPI basket of good. Okay, which is we can see the difference on the price. Okay, for 2011, we can see the increase on the price level. Okay, from oranges increased from $1 to $2. So now with the same quantity, okay, the cost of CPI basket increased to $20. And same as for the haircuts, okay, the 5 quantity, and also the price is $10. Okay, the price is $10. So it costs to the increase on the CPI cost basket to $50. Sorry. Okay, so total for 2011, the cost of CPI basket currently on the current period price is $70. So now we can see the cost of CPI basket based on the base period price is $50 and the current price the CPI basket is $70. So kita nampak dia punya perubahan harga from $50 to $70 as a total in the economy based on these two products. Okay. So the CPI calculated as the formula here, the cost of basket at current period cost of basket at current minus current period price, and divide by cost of basket at base period, and then we times with 100. So using the number of the simple example just now, so $70 divided by $50, then we will get and times with 100, we will get $140. So it's actually this CPI is actually explain about the 40% higher in the current period than it was in the base period. Okay, so that is how we can explain on the CPI. Okay, so this is the formula. Okay, once we have done with the calculation on the CPI, when we get the information about the CPI, okay, macam tadi kita dah dapat base year and also the current year, alright. So we can see we can get the information from the CPI just now. Then we can go for the calculation or the measurement for inflation rate. So how we can calculate on the inflation rate based on the CPI this year, minus with CPI previous year, then divide by CPI previous year, then we times with 100. Okay, so that is how we calculate on the inflation rate. So for example, here the CPI for the year 2008 was 110, and also the CPI for the year 2009 is 121. So we have the information. Okay, we have the information about 2019 and 2018, which is 2019 121 and minus with 110 for 2010. So we times with 100, so we will get 10%. So the inflation rate for 2019 is equal to 10%. So that is how we use the formula given, okay, how to calculate the inflation rate based on the CPI. So we will get the 10%. Okay. All right, now then we go to the types of inflation. Okay, so types of inflation also we can say as a causes of inflation. So what are the type of inflation? So what are causes to the inflation? Okay, it's the same thing lah. Okay, so there are two types of inflation where we have demand pull the inflation and cost push the inflation. Okay, maksudnya macam mana? Well, how we can say the demand itself pulls inflation? Okay, the demand pull inflation occurs when the aggregate demand exceed the aggregate supply. Okay, which is aggregate demand itself, okay, can pull the inflation. So demand itself yang akan menyebabkan inflation. Okay, and then cost push inflation is an increase in the general price level associated with an increase in the cost of production. Okay, so yang cost push inflation is actually based on the producer side. Okay, where the producer have to increase on the cost and can cost to increase in the cost production, and they have to increase the price level. That's why the reason of the cost push inflation. Okay, so you can see here, right, on the demand pull inflation graph. Okay, so how are we going to explain on this graph? Okay, so of course, during your exam, of course, you have to explain each of the movement of each of the graph or the curve. Okay, AD1 to AD2, AD0, AD1. So how the movement, each of the movement mesti ada reason. Okay, you have to explain the causes and also what are the reason they move to AD0 and AD1 and what the impacts to the price and how the increase in the demand cost to increase in the price level, then increase to the inflation rate. Okay, so that's how you can you need to explain and understand the graph here. Okay, so the demand pull inflation is actually the price increase that occurs as a result of a supply shortage. Okay, so which means the demand is higher than supply, right? So when the demand is higher than supply, okay, so where the economists actually they see it as too many dollars or too many ringgit chasing for few goods. Okay, maksudnya inflation is happen when economy is booming. Okay, so the people have more money, so they will go and spend more and more. But actually in the market they manage to supply only few products, so that's why they increase the price level. So the demand itself can pull the inflation. Okay, so from the graph here, okay, where the YF here is a full employment aggregate output, which actually they determine on the point of the intersection of the aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Okay, so as an increase in the demand towards a full employment at the YF, okay, from AD0 to AD1, it shows that increase in the price level from P0 to P1. Okay, so meaning that when before this the demand is at AD0, okay, AD0, and then the price at P0, okay, the P0 here. And then now, because of they have a higher salary, so they will increase their spending. Okay, and economy is booming, so they increase their spending. So they're very confident with the economic situation that time. So they will increase the spending. So what happened? The demand will increase to AD1. So when the demand increased to AD1, so what happened to the price level? The price here will increase to P1. Okay, and then the price level, we can see the price increase due to the increase in demand, right? Okay, then they go and spend the money because they have more money. They have more money. They go for shopping. They spend more money, so they go on demand. So demand will be increased. Okay, so in demand increase at D2, AD20 here. So what happened to the price? Price has increased. Okay, so here the demand pull inflation occurs when the AD exceed the DAS. All right, so meaning that right now we have lots of money. Okay, so we spend more, which is the demand for, let's say we have apple. Okay, we demand for apple. We demand 3 apples, but the supplier only managed to supply 1. Okay, so they tend to increase the price level. So meaning that, okay, siapa yang mampu je bayar. So that's why siapa yang kaya dapat lah. Okay, so when this person, okay, they are looking for the more demand on the apple, okay, so they keep more spending. So the supplier will keep increasing the price. Okay, so that's why the inflation rate will be increased. Okay, dia naikkan harga sebab dia kata, oh, you all banyak duit, so kita naikkan lagi price level supaya ada balance demand and supply here. Alright, okay, so that's how the demand pull the inflation. So demand itself, okay, pull the inflation. So demand itu sendiri yang menyebabkan berlakunya kenaikan harga barang yang akan menyebabkan peningkatan inflation rate, kadar inflasi. Now we go for the cost push inflation. Okay, go back to the demand pull inflation just now. Okay, there are 5 causes actually. Okay, there are 5 causes for the demand pull inflation. Apa yang menyebabkan the people is increasing keep spending their money. Okay, there are 5 causes. Okay, the demand pull inflation. The first one is because of the growing economy. So the economy, when the consumer feel confident, they spend more and take more on that. So this leads to a steady increase in demand, which means higher price. Okay, so economy is growing, economy is booming, people go and spend, so that's why price will be getting higher. Okay, and also another thing is due to the government spending. So the government spending, when the government spend more freely, so the prices also will the prices will go up. And also on the inflation expectation, so company may increase their price in expectation of inflation. Okay, so due to that, because they think that in next year the price will be getting increased. Okay, the expectation of inflation will be getting higher, so the price will be increased. Okay, and also due to the more money in the system, so the government implement on the expansion of the money supply, so with too few goods to buy makes the price increase. Okay, so that is the causes of how the demand can pull the inflation. Okay, so you can imagine that during that time, kenapa berlakunya inflation is high due to the demand, because economy is booming, everyone is keep spending the money. Okay, so that is some of the reason why the demand can cause to increase. Okay, all right, now we go to cost push inflation. So cost push inflation is actually caused by an increase in prices of input. Okay, like labor and also raw materials. Okay, so yang tadi, yang demand pull inflation is actually based on the demand itself on the consumer. But cost push inflation is on a supplier side. Okay, where the cost push inflation is actually caused by the increase in the prices. Okay, so increase in prices because of the inputs. Okay, has increased, cost of production has increased. Okay, for example, the labor and also the raw materials. So the increase in price of the factors of production actually lead to decrease in supply of this good. Okay, so if you still remember in your microeconomics, okay, what are the factors determined on the supply? Okay, so when the cost of production increase, the supplier will tend to reduce the supply because they don't want to pay higher cost on the production. Okay, so that's why they decrease on the production. Okay, so while the demand remain constant, so the prices of the commodities increase, causing a rise in overall price level. So this can cause to the cost push the inflation. So here the figure is a full employment. Okay, where the aggregate output, which is determined at the point of the intersection of the aggregate demand curve AD and AS. Okay, so upon the upward shift on aggregate supply cost to the supply, okay, the supply curve moved to AS0 to AS1. So the equilibrium aggregate output falls from QF to Q1. Okay, so while the general price level will rise from P0 to P1. Okay, so a further upward shift in the aggregate supply curve, okay, from AS1 to AS2, they can create the further increase in the price level. Okay, so let's say the cost has increased. Okay, the more increase in the price on the input, okay, the cost production has increased, so they reduce more and more on the supply, so it can create a further increase in the price, okay, to the higher level. So this increase in the general price level is called as a push inflation. So you can see the difference here, the cost push inflation and demand pull inflation is because of the demand itself is because of the consumer. But the cost push inflation is actually due to the cost increase, the cost production increase by the firm. So there are two different agents that can contribute to the increase in the inflation. Okay. So here the shift of aggregate supply curve may result from 3 factors. Okay, so what are the three factors that that can cause to the increase in the cost of production? Okay, so it can be happen when the labor union requested for increase in the minimum wage. Okay, so the labor union asking for increase in the minimum wage. And the second factors is when the firm is they stock up on goods and create shortage. Okay, so because they want more profit, okay, so they will stock up on goods and create shortage, which will increase price level and giving them a higher profit. Okay, so because of they want to higher profit, they will stock up the goods and create a shortage, so they will increase the price level, then can cause to the cost push inflation. And the third reason is due to the increase of the price of imported raw materials. Let's say you as a firm, okay, you are producing a product, and where the product, some of the material you need to import from international market. Okay, so actually due to the fluctuation of the foreign exchange rate, okay, it caused to the increase in the cost of product, cost of the export and import. Sorry, so cost increase to on the import price. Okay, so if let's say the price of import increase, so you have automatically we know that the cost to producer will be increased. You have to pay higher on the import product, because without the import product you cannot complete the product, right? So we need some of the component of your product you need to import from outside. Okay, so it can, when the price of import product increase, so cost to increase your cost of production and lead to the increase in the price level. Okay, all right, so that is a cost push the inflation. Okay, now we go to the effect of inflation. Okay, so with the explanation of the causes or the type of inflation just now, okay, so I'm gonna explain about the effect of inflation. So due to the demand inflation and cost push the inflation, so where the demand is actually comes from the consumer itself, and the cost push inflation comes from the firm, so it can lead to the inflation. So now with the inflation caused by these two agents, like cost push inflation and demand pull inflation, so what's the effect toward the society and also toward the economy? Okay, so because of their behavior of the firm and also the consumer, cost of the inflation, and how it can affect to the society and also the economy. Okay, so in terms of society, it can reduce the purchasing power, and also they can hurt the poor. Okay, so that's why we said as inflation is actually a part of the macroeconomic problem, because the bad impact will towards the consumer and also the poor. All right, so the reduce the purchasing power. So how the inflation can reduce the purchasing power? Okay, so the reducing purchasing power is actually the main and most significant impact of inflation. Okay, because we know that is actually commonly, we know that people are always talking about inflation, and now they are not able to purchase more because of the price has increased, right? Okay, so due to the general increase in prices over the time, they can reduce the consumer purchasing power, because a fixed amount of money will eventually allow for the less consumption. Okay, so because of you have a fixed money, okay, your salary will not go up as how faster the price has increased. So with a certain amount, okay, with the price increase, so you can only consume less product. Okay, so consume will lose purchasing power. They will lose lose their purchasing power regardless of whether inflation is running at 2% or 4%. Still, when the inflation running at 2% or 4%, still the percentage can affect to the purchasing power. Okay, so that's how inflation can cause to the reduce in purchasing power. And the second one is how the inflation can hurt the poor. Okay, so we know that our consumer with lower income, typically actually they are spending a greater percentage of their total income on necessity product, which is not done by the higher income. Okay, so this cost to leaving them with less of backup plan. against the increase on the increase reducing on the purchasing power that brought by the inflation. So the lower income is actually the lower income wage earners in developed economies, and the majority of the people in developing economies, they spend a huge amount on their weekly or monthly household budget and food and energy. So which is actually they are very difficult to find substitute product for food and also for the energy. So because due to this, the difficulty to substitute or forego when the price rise, so they have no choice. So when the price has increased, they have to go through the moment. Okay, so the inflation is increasing, so they have to increase they have to adapt now on the in the situation, so they have no choice. So that's why inflation is hurting the poor people because they have a very low of earning. Okay, so that's how why that's how we say as inflation is actually bad impact to the poor people. Okay, now we go to the impact of inflation to the economy. Okay, so what's the impact on inflation to the economy? Okay, so we know that inflation is actually a symptom, like can be a symptom of a healthy economy. Okay, because we know that economy is booming, people spend and cost to inflation, right? But and also it can cause to inflation expected to rise. Okay, so here the effect of inflation towards the economy can affect to the workers, to the interest rate, and also lead to the painful recession. Okay, so if let's say the inflation was 2% last year and 2% this year, so the business, the workers, and also the consumer, they would likely to expect that inflation will remain 2% because we will see the trend. Okay, last year 2%, this year 2%. So they will assume that next year will be 2%. But actually, when the expectation of future inflation will eventually start to rise in line with the inflation rate, when it sharply increase, so and also it's actually we can see the trend is remains high. So they will expect that the inflation rate will be increasing. So employee will begin to demand larger pay raises as expectation rise. Okay, and employee pass the cost on by increasing the price for output. Okay, so before this we know that in Malaysia, right, we know that they are looking for increase on the minimum wage because they know that inflation will occur. Okay, there is inflation on next year or this year. Okay, so they are looking for higher wage in order for them to survive. So that's why employees start to begin on the higher demand. So that is the effect to the economy when the workers start to demand for higher salary. So the employer have to pass the increase on the cost of production because of salary is a part of the cost of production. So because they need to pay higher wages in order to produce this product, right? So that is a cost to the firm. So they have to increase the price level in order to back up on the increase of the salary. So that's why it can increase to the workers will demand on the larger wages, right? And also the second one is when the government and a central bank, they has a strong incentive to control the inflation. Okay, and we know that the monetary policy has been used in the US and also the whole country, the other country also do the same thing, the monetary policy, because we know that monetary policy, that is a part of the government policy in order to curb the inflation. So the policymakers can increase the minimum interest rate. So due to the inflation, they will increase the interest rate. Okay, this one is the same thing lah. What currently happened when the central bank, okay, they will adjust on the interest rate. Okay, because of the inflation, they want to make sure that inflation will not go so high. So the government will take drastic action in order to curb the inflation. So they will increase the interest rate. So when when the inflation is happen, okay, and they threaten to reach the central bank target, which is actually for US, actually they target for 2%, okay, and for the developed country, and 3% to 4% for emerging economies or emerging country. So this increase on the borrowing cost toward the economy by limiting the available money. So when the government increase on the interest rate, okay, so it will reduce the borrowing from from the public. So when reduce the borrowing, it can cause to the reduce in demand and cause to reduce in price, so they can curb the inflation. So that's how why the government will increase on the central bank will increase the interest rate, because they want to reduce the spending of the people. Okay, all right. So so the issue with the trade-off between inflation and also unemployment is that previously happened in 1970s, okay, during the stagflation on the US, okay, it's a prolonged acceptance of the higher inflation. It's actually they want to protect job. Actually, they can cause to inflation expectation to rise to the point where they trigger an increase in the inflation of the price hikes and also pay increase. So what they do is the Federal Reserve, okay, in the US, okay, the Federal Reserve, okay, the central bank, okay, was subsequently forced to raise the interest rate significantly higher and maintain them for a longer period. Okay, so they will keep increase on the interest rate, okay, in order to regain the lost credibility, and actually they want to persuade everyone once again that this action is actually can control the inflation. But actually, due to this implementation by the government, okay, by the central bank, it's actually resulted in the unemployment will increase rapidly. Okay, so that is a sum of the effect of inflation to the economy. So where it can cause to the workers demand for larger wages, raises the interest rate. The central bank have to raise the interest rate and also lead to the painful recession. So the main point here is when the government increase the raises the central bank increase the interest rate, it can cause to the burden to the household, where they have to pay higher cost of the borrowing. They have to pay on that. Okay, so with the higher interest rate. All right. Okay. So that is the effect of inflation toward the society and also toward the economy. Okay. Now we go to the effect of how COVID-19 affecting the inflation. Okay, so here you can see actually this one currently happened, okay, due to the COVID-19. Why the prices keep increasing? Okay, so because due to the pandemic, okay, it caused to the inflation. All right, so during the COVID-19, okay, so this is recently happened due to the COVID-19 happened in 2020. So the pandemic itself, okay, they actually come together with the great lockdown. So when the COVID-19 is a pandemic, okay, so it's the pandemic itself, they come together with a great lockdown that which is implemented by the whole country, the whole world. All right. So this actually unusual. There was unusual supply and demand shock. Okay, so due to the COVID-19 and it caused to the lockdown, so it caused to the shock to the demand and supply. Okay, so how it can going to affect the inflation? Okay, so in a general drop in aggregate demand due to rising uncertainty and income insecurity, actually they can act to lessen inflationary pressure. Okay, but the higher production costs, okay, they could lead to cost push inflation. Okay, they can lead to cost push inflation due to supply chain disruption and the impact of the physical distancing and cross-border movement restriction on the labor supply. So that is how the demand and supply actually can cause to the inflation. Actually, for the pandemic, it caused to the inflation. Okay, so which is currently happen when everyone is actually panic. Okay, they do panic buying, and then suddenly we cannot get enough stock or supply. Okay, so suddenly the price has increased. Now we have to face with the inflation. Okay, all right. So here we can see the from the figure here, it shows that the crisis actually resulted in a significant drop in demand for many key commodities. Okay, so mostly key commodities, okay, they have a significant drop in the demand. Okay, for where the global oil price decreased sharply in March and April, I think. Okay, as a result of a worldwide lockdown, so which reduced demand for energy product significantly, right? Okay, so this result in low domestic retail fuel price, which have had significant negative impact on domestic as an overall. Okay, so the food commodity, okay, for example, the food commodity prices increase as a result of export restriction in producer countries, okay, as well as the disruption in export logistics. So due to this, due to the restriction, right, it can cause to the increase on the commodity price. Okay, for example, like Myanmar and also for example, Vietnam and also Cambodia. Okay, so initially they decided to impose a temporary export restriction on rice because they know that every country is actually they put on the restriction. So it's actually they want to make sure that they have a enough domestic rice supply. So that's why they think that they need to supply to their domestic first, then only they can go for export. Okay, so due to this, the restriction on rice in order to ensure that they have enough domestic rice supply, so it can cause to the more expensive import rice. Okay, so that's how because of the global economic pandemic caused to the lockdown and how it can impact to the supply and demand and how it can impact to the price itself. So the strict movement restriction caused considerable supply disruption on the home from at the start of the crisis, so which contributed to some price pressure for some food products. Okay, so that's how due to the economic pandemic and the lockdown can cause to the disruption on the supply chain. Okay, and how it can impact to the price. So that's why now we can see the commodity product has increased the price, and of course it can lead to the inflation. All right. Okay. So that is a sum of the impact of the pandemic and how it can impact to the due to the economic pandemic and how it can impact to the inflation. Okay. So due to the demand and supply shock and also related to the supply chain. Okay. So this is a Malaysian rate, Malaysian inflation rate. Okay, on the 2 July to April 2022. Okay, so where we can see the fluctuation on the inflation rate. And the latest one on the April 2022, the inflation rate is at 2.8%. Okay, so this is based on the Malaysian inflation rate. Okay, now we go to how. Okay, when we have discussed on the what is inflation and how we're going to calculate on measure on the CPI and also inflation rate, and what are the causes of the inflation rate due to the demand pull inflation, cost pushing the inflation, and also what the effect of the inflation toward the society and also toward the economy, and how the pandemic caused to the inflation. Now we go to the measure to control the inflation. Okay, so the measure to control inflation, how the government will try their best, okay, in order to curb the inflation. All right. Okay. So now we go to the first one. Okay, the government will the government can implement on contractionary monetary policy. So contractionary monetary policy is actually one of the government action when the government will implement on the contractionary, meaning that why we say as a contractionary, because inflation is actually economy is booming. Okay, price is increasing, so everyone is keep spending their money. That's why the demand has increased and cost to the price level increase, and cost to the inflation also will be increased. Okay, so now the government will implement on the contractionary. So contractionary is actually like kuncup. All right, so kuncup meaning that we want to reduce the money supply in the economy. So the government will do as a implement on the purchase bond, or increase the raising the reserve requirement, and also increase the interest rate and discount rate. Okay, so that is how the contractionary. So I'm going to explain one by one on the purchasing bond. Okay, so how the government implement on the contractionary. Okay, meaning that the government want to reduce the money supply in the economy. Okay, so how the central banks actually, the central bank will sell short-term bonds. Okay, government will sell short-term bonds to the public and also the banking committee, which is the commercial bank. So the government, they have this short-term bond. Okay, they will sell to the commercial bank. So commercial bank will pay to the central bank. So meaning that the commercial bank, they have very less money. Okay, so when they have very less money, so they will reduce the people ability to spend, because some of the money they used to pay to the central bank on the short-term bond just now. So they have less money. So with the less money on the commercial bank, so they will implement very tight policy in order to give loan to the public. So when the commercial bank implement on the tight interest rate, the tight what we call it syarat lah, dia punya syarat. Okay, so untuk kurangkan pinjaman. Okay, so they can reduce the people's ability to spend. Okay, because they have very little few money. Okay, in the commercial bank. So that's how the central bank is actually, they want to reduce the money supply in the market. It's actually they use the commercial bank as an intermediaries. Okay, between central bank and also the public. So they use the central bank as an intermediaries to reduce the ability people to spend the money. Okay, so that is one. All right, the second one is raising the reserve requirement. So as you can see here on the central bank, okay, central bank is actually sometimes they will ask the commercial bank, they have to put some reserve to commercial bank, to the central bank, okay, which is before this they only put 10% to the central bank. So the remaining they will put in the central bank. So remaining will put at the commercial bank. So commercial bank can give the money or lend the money to the public. But now, due to inflation, the government want to make sure that the central bank want to make sure that the ability or the money supply will reduce in the economy. So they will increase the reserve requirement. So before this, the commercial bank have to put only 10%. Now they have to put 20%. So let's say they have 1 million. So 20% from the 1 million have to put in the central bank. So they have very little. So they have few money in commercial bank. So so the commercial bank, they will have less cash and they will restrict the lending. So it costs to the decrease in the money supply. So that's how the government use, okay, how they manage on the reserve requirement to the central bank, to the commercial bank, in order to reduce the money supply. So reduce in money supply will reduce the lending to the public. So people will less borrow money, so they will have less money, so they cannot go and spend money. So the price will decrease and inflation will be decreased. All right, so that's how the raising the reserve requirement, how the central bank implement on the increasing the reserve requirement towards the commercial bank. And then the third one is raising the discount rate. Okay, raising the discount rate is actually increase the cost to increase the borrowing cost. Okay, meaning that during inflation, they don't want to people or public to borrow more money. So how the government do is government will increase the discount rate. So when the discount rate is increasing, cost to increase borrowing the cost. So people will reduce borrowing money from the borrowing money from bank. Okay, so that's how the raising discount rate can reduce the borrowing money from the public. They don't want to pay higher cost for paying more for the loan. And also how the fourth one is how to reduce the inflation rate. The government will implement on the raising interest rate. Okay, raising interest rate is actually they want to encourage saving. So the more you save your money in the bank, you will get higher return because the interest rate has increased. Okay, so they want to encourage more saving from the public. So increase saving and they will reduce the spending. So when you increase, because you attract the attractive on the interest rate, okay, they will encourage people to spend more money. Okay, and then they will encourage more saving in the bank. So the spending will be lesser. So when they spend lesser, the demand will be lesser and price will be reduced, inflation rate will be reduced. Can you see the relationship? Okay, when the government increase interest rate and people will go for more saving, reduce the spending, reduce the demand, reduce the price, and reduce the inflation rate. Okay. Now we go to the direct control. Okay, so other than inflation, other than the what we call monetary policy just now. Okay, so the government will implement on the direct control. Okay, so another measure is actually of the direct control. They want to combat the inflation is price control. Okay, so price control is actually they will set a maximum price for essential consumer goods. So they are the maximum prices set by law, and by anyone charging more than this price is subject to legal penalties. So government will set the maximum price, okay, which is this maximum price that you can sell this product. You are not allowed to sell more product. You are not able to. You are not allowed to sell the product higher than this maximum price. Okay, so actually, but the price control is actually difficult to implement. And the second one is the hoarding, anti-hoarding. So hoarding is actually in economy refers to the concept of purchasing and storing a large amount of product belonging to on the particular market, okay, which is they know that the price has increased, so they put a hoarding market, okay, so they can create a scarcity of the product, and actually they can drive the price of that product to be increased. So those who know that this company or this firm or this market is actually hoarding a product, so they can do a complaint or report to the authority. Okay, so that's how they can use the anti-hoarding campaign. Okay, and also to control the inflation, it is essential to introduce a compulsory saving. Okay, so in order to reduce your spending, okay, the government will implement on the compulsory saving, where the plan is actually, for example, a deduction from the salary of the workers. Okay, so where the salary, the deduction from the salary workers, actually they will credit it back to the account for the workers. Okay, for example, in Malaysia we do on the implement on the EPF. Okay, so when you work, okay, let's say during inflation, okay, the government will increase the contribution, let's say from 9% to 11. So from 9 to 11, meaning that you have to put more your money deduction to your account. Okay, so your disposable income will be lesser. Okay, so that's how we said as a compulsory saving, which is that is how the government can reduce your spending. Okay, instead of putting on the higher income tax. Okay, so to control the inflation, it's actually essential to implement a mandatory saving plan, okay, such as the deduction from the worker salary. Okay, so that's how the deduction from the worker salary is actually we can withdraw from during the retirement. So that is actually the benefit towards the workers as well. All right. Okay. All right, so now we have towards the end of the topic. So how are we going to protect your money during inflation? So there is a best question here. How are we going to curb? How are we going to face this problem of inflation? How are we going to survive with this inflation? So how to protect your money during your inflation? So some of the advice from economists or from the experts is actually maybe we know that nation is actually they experience in they have very less experience in saving, spending, and also investing in settings such as the severe inflation, right? So there are some advice for you to set up upcoming months how you can survive and how you can put a plan. Okay, let's say in future there is a inflation happen and the price has increased with your lower income, so how you can survive, so how you can make sure that your money will be increasing. Okay, so first is actually you can manage your budgeting. So this is some of the advice. Okay, so having a budget is always the best way to keep your costs under control. So meaning that you know what in the recent years of the pandemic, COVID-19 has caused many Malaysians to take up on the practice. Okay, because we know that during before this they have no awareness on the saving. So due to the pandemic, so they will have more awareness the importance of saving. So you have to know how you put your budgeting. Okay, so simply track your how much you're spending and what product that you spend your money, and also given the significant price. Okay, because you know that all the price product that you spend have a significant price changes in the product that you buy, and also instead of spend your budgeting, also you have to set. It is advisable for you to shut down your credit card, your personal loan. So instead of paying a high interest rate on your loans, because we know that during inflation, the interest rate that has increased, you have to pay more on your debt, right? So why not you settle down your credit card and also personal loan? Okay, maybe you can start to invest your money to get a return in the future. So you put your money for investment instead of paying higher interest rate. You can put your money for investment, and also you can make sure that you have a fund in case of emergency. That's why we have to control the way how we spend the money. Okay, all right, so that's the second one, to settle down your credit card and also your personal loan. And also those who have settled down your credit card, and also you have a emergency fund for at least 3 to 6 months. Okay, so you can look into the investment opportunities that are actually, we can see, both safe and guaranteed to keep up with the inflation. Okay, so we know that that is how we can survive in the future. Let's say the inflation has happened, so we have more return from the investment. So that's how we can cope with the inflation. So as instead we're just looking for increasing in the salary. Okay, and with the investment it can help a lot. Okay, so how you can survive in the future. So in order to protect the buying power of your long-term saving, so some experts actually recommend to invest in diversified set of fund. Okay, the important of the important of investing. Okay, so you have diversified your set of fund to help your money grow over time. So you know that the investment, right? So you invest more, then you get more return. Okay, so you can survive during the inflation. So you have to pay close attention to interest rate as well. All right. Okay, so I think that's all for today. I hope that you really clear with the explanation about the inflation and how the flow of the inflation, the definition, the calculation, and also the effect and how we can survive on the inflation. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Okay, I will pass to the Dr. Khairi.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nurul, for the lecture, which is for the sharing. You can see that we have the concept of inflation. Before we go further, maybe we can have a question from audience. Okay, any question? Maybe the team member can put the question in chat box, and then I will read the question. Okay. Any question? Okay, I think we need to take the question from audience. Okay, we have one question from our student. What is the benefit of inflation? Pelik soalan dia ni, apa kebaikan? The benefit of inflation. Maybe Dr. Nurul can answer this question, but maybe the advantages of the inflation.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Khairi, for the question. Okay, so what is the benefit of inflation? Okay, instead of the bad impact of the inflation, actually there is some benefit of inflation to the workers of the firm, workers and also the firm. Okay, as I explained just now, right? So workers can demand high salary during the inflation because the reason of the increase in the living cost. Okay, because of the increase in the living cost, they can negotiate with the company or the firm to increase the salary. And also actually even they increase the salary in the future in event of the inflation, but it's actually they can hurt the workers. Let's say if the price will goes up faster than their salary. So here you can see the benefit is actually to the workers itself. Okay, so they can earn higher salary during the inflation.
Okay, and then we have one more question from my student, I think. Will price, this one. Will prices go back down to what they were before inflation? Ini adakah harga akan turun bila lah punya selepas inflasi maksudnya? Will price,
Okay. Will the price go back down where before the inflation? So meaning that we assume that the inflation rate will be ataupun the price will be lower as before the inflation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so actually there's no quick fix with there's no quick fix for the high inflation. Actually, the central actually they have to started to raise the interest rate, making the borrowing money more expensive, and also which should have a negative impact to the consumer spending. And also a few industry actually started to take hold from the supply chains with the hiccups of the begin late in the 2021. But here actually, can we go back to the back over before the inflation? Actually, the analysts actually some of the analysis actually they claim that have a longer period of time. Okay, where the general in a generally the economists actually believe that during the 2019-21, so the inflation is actually likely to continue be higher than the central bank target with 2 to 3%. Okay, so that is actually how they assume that whether the inflation is actually likely to increase 2 to 3%, higher than 2 to 3%. Okay, so to have the amount that before the inflation, I think we have no answer on that. Okay, because what we can see that it's more likely to be higher, a bit higher in a longer period of time. So that's why the government have to take a fast action in order to curb the inflation to be more based on the target of the central bank, 2 to 3%.
Okay, means that sesuatu yang naik, kita belum pasti turunnya bila. Okay, we have one more question from Kimi. Assalamualaikum, Miss. Wow, dia nampak doktor kita ni nampak muda kot. Okay. Miss, how does inflation impact to the value of my wage or my ability to earn money? Maksudnya sejauh mana inflasi ni memberi kesan kepada duit kita lah kot, gaji kita.
Oh, okay. Okay, so due to the inflation, we know that inflation is actually because of the price value price is increased, So your purchasing power has been actually significantly reduced by the inflation. If the product of price increase continuously, but your salary stay same at the same time. So maksudnya tak ada perubahan on your salary, but increase in your increase the price level. So actually the value of money is actually, in other words, we can see as we are not able to afford to purchase as many goods as you have, meaning that with the inflation is actually with your salary, with current salary, your current salary, the price keep increasing. Actually, with the amount of money, we are not able to afford to buy more in the future. Okay, that's how the value of the wage impact to the impact from the inflation.
Okay, we have one more question from Khaira. Okay, Salam, I would like to ask a question. Why is it important for the society to be concerned and aware of inflation? Maksudnya kenapa kita semua ni perlu ambil sedar tentang isu inflasi.
Okay, alright. So why should we important to? Okay, so why to be concerned, aware of the inflation? Okay, so we know that the inflation is actually because of the higher price in terms of vehicles, the grocery, and also electricity, kan? Okay, so kenapa kita perlu sedar? Kenapa pentingnya we have to know about the inflation? Okay, but we know that obviously the increase of the price can cause a burden to the people on the society. So we know that no one will enjoy the increase on the inflation and also the increase on the price level, right? So actually, bila kita ambil tahu concern on the inflation, okay, even though we are not enjoying on that, but the good news is that inflation, when we know that inflation, we have to take some precaution or awareness. The good news is that inflation typically they can increase the value of your home. Okay, so the rising cost of living also can result in larger wages for many employees. So increase in the interest rate, okay, could boost the long-term worth of your investment. So you think that during inflation is high, so the price of the asset also will be increased. So when you're aware about the inflation, so those who have an asset, you can put in more investment on the you can your return, so you can increase your income as well. Okay, so it's still we ourselves how we're going to put the awareness on how we're going to react on that instead of just waiting from the government itself on the prevention or how the action by the government to reduce or curb the inflation.
Okay, we have this question is very interesting. Okay, why can't the government just bring more money to help the people to survive during inflation? Maksudnya kalau orang nak cukup duit, kenapa secara bank ataupun bank negara tak cetak dia duit bagi banyak dan bagi kepada orang ramai? What is your opinion, Doctor?
Oh, okay. Okay, so sometimes people will say that function is actually they can why they don't just they print the money kan. Kenapa okay, sekarang ni harga barang meningkat, so why not the government print the money and give to the public? Okay, so when the government giving more money to compensate the decline in purchasing power sebab harga barang meningkat, so why don't government give us financial assistance for us to survive? Okay, let's say we know that increase in the inflation, the increase in the price level because of increase in demand. So let's say government print more money and then they bagi to the public, they are giving more assistance. So the public will enjoy on the demand. So they will put more on demand and price will be increased, right? So due to that, that's why the government will not simply print the money, okay, because they want to reduce the inflation. So maksudnya kalau dia print more money, okay, it's like it can produce more demand, okay, it can cause to more demand and cause to increase price, and so inflation will not curb. So that's why printing more money is not the best solution for the government or to central bank to reduce the inflation.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. And one more question from Azrul. Okay, in your opinion, Doctor, can you explain further why the government withdraw the subsidy for the price of chicken and cooking oil? Doesn't it burden the people after the price increase? Maksudnya kat sini isu yang paling latest lah, Doktor. Kenapa adanya penarikan subsidi untuk dua barang utama ni, iaitu ayam dan juga minyak masak? Ini sekadar pandangan daripada Doktor lah.
Okay, so pada pandangan saya, kalau let's say the government withdraw with the subsidy of the price of chicken and cooking oil, it's actually because of the subsidy is actually given during to it's actually they want to help the poor actually. Okay, they want to help the public, okay, in order to have a welfare to the community. So meaning that we know that the price of cooking oil is actually high. So that's why government give some subsidy. So now it's actually they withdraw the subsidy. It's actually they want to increase the price level in order to reduce the consumption of the cooking oil. Okay, and then also as well for the chicken. So in order to reduce, let's say the subsidy is actually I think withdraw the subsidy for chicken is better to not to withdraw the subsidy, because we know that chicken is actually the poor people also they consume for the chicken and also as the cooking oil, but the cooking oil is actually for the, kalau kita tengok the cooking oil tu actually yang harga dia yang mahal tu, yang botol besar tu. So for the packet one, there is still a subsidy for that. So actually the cooking oil is actually buy from the rich people, kan? So the minyak masak yang mahal tu actually those who high income, they will purchase on that cooking oil. So that's why the subsidy is actually bila government bagi lagi banyak subsidy, so meaning that it help the rich people. So meaning that the patutnya they ambil the subsidy paid for the expensive cooking oil, so they can help to the poor, more to the poor. So kalau kita tengok the cooking oils actually they increase the price is for the expensive one, not for the packet. So packet is actually still subsidized by the government. So because we know that the consumer for the packet is actually from mostly from the lower income. So subsidi ni sepatutnya it's actually they want to help the poor, but actually the minyak masak yang mahal tu actually the rich people will buy for that. So that's why the government will take out or withdraw the subsidy, okay, in order to take the subsidy and give to the other financial assistance. So allocate that subsidy to the poor people, mostly to the poor people.
Okay, thank you, Doctor, for the answer. Actually, we have one more question, but I think the question is quite similar with other question. Dia tanya what happened when our country. No. This one. Kenapa minyak masak naik sedangkan negara kita pengeluar minyak masak, maksudnya kelapa sawit lah, kalau itu merujuk kepada kelapa sawit. Saya rasa dekat sini harga tu memang dah ditetapkan, tapi sebelum ni ia dilihat rendah disebabkan subsidi.
Subsidi, ya betul.
So that's kekal, tapi bila subsidi ditarik balik dia membawa kepada harga yang
betul.
Ada satu lagi, Doktor, banyak doktor hari ni menarik topik kita. Okey, Assalamualaikum Miss. Rasa Dr. Muna kena declare lah ni, Miss or Madam ni. Miss, and our country experiencing several inflation problem in the long term. Maksudnya dia nak tahu apa yang akan berlaku jika inflasi ni berterusan dalam tempoh masa yang lama. Pandangan sebagai ahli ekonomi lah, Doktor.
Okay, so what happened when a country experiencing severe inflation? So maksudnya di sini kalau negara kita mengalami inflasi pada yang sangat panjang, so meaning that we can see that it can because tadi kita nampak kan government will increase the interest rate, so the saving by the household will be increased and also akan mengurangkan lagi borrowing from the public. Okay, and also it can cause to the investment as well, because investment ni kalau katakan inflation is very high, so interest rate also will high, so people akan kurangkan investment because some people they do loan to do investment, so dia akan menyebabkan investment akan kurang. So bila investment kurang, production also will be reduced. So when production will be reduced akan menyebabkan economic will be slow down. So economic slow down akan menyebabkan wages will be reduced, profit also will be reduced, spending will be reduced, and dalam masa jangka panjang, inflation tu akan slowly turun. Okay, so that is the impact when we facing a severe inflation. So di mana kita tahu government, central bank also dia akan mengambil satu tindakan yang cepat bagi mengatasi masalah the inflation goes up too high. So that's why dalam masa jangka panjang efek dia adalah pada investment. So bila investment kurang, productivity the production also will be reduced, so economy akan bit slow down, dia akan kurangkan balik inflation, so dia akan balik back to the normal one lah.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I think that is the last question for today.
Okay.
So sebelum kita akhiri program kita pada hari ini, maybe Dr. Muna nak rumuskan topik kita pada hari ini tentang inflasi. Mungkin saya rumuskan. Alright.
Okay, terima kasih Dr. Khairi. Okay, so before saya akhiri lecture today, so apa yang saya dapat summarikan hari ini adalah untuk kita how to we going to measure the inflation, we need the CPI. Okay, so kita kena tahu how we do calculate on the CPI, how the measurement of the CPI, and how the effect of the inflation, okay, toward the society. So maksudnya inflation ni nak dikatakan bagus tu tak adalah bagus sangat, tapi we can see inflation will be still happen, okay, tapi kita akan tengok pada dia punya peratusan, okay, so sama ada tinggi, rendah ataupun sangat tinggi. So kalau sangat tinggi, which is hyperinflation, can cause to the effect to the economics memang teruk lah, okay, so the impact very worse actually especially for the poor people. Okay, so tapi kalau dia punya inflation, okay, the rate is actually daripada kadar sederhana it's actually we can do the adjustment, the government can do the adjustment. Okay, and then in the long term dia akan kembali pada asal yang mana rate tu adalah kita kata as a stable rate lah. Okay, so inflasi ni pada kita boleh tengok dari segi kebaikan dan keburukan. So keburukan boleh kepada purchasing power lah, di mana purchasing power will be reduced from the consumer, and also it can burden more to the lower income. So especially B40, and also sekarang ni pun kita tengok M40 pun dah banyak bising sebab harga barang meningkat, and also at the wages pun tak naik tinggi tapi harga barang meningkat tinggi. So dia akan effect pada purchasing power, and also the benefit is for the lower income, dia boleh enjoy increase in the salary. Sebelum ni salary dia rendah, now can increase the salary, so they can enjoy to increase the living cost. Tapi itulah ada masalah juga kalau harga berterusan naik. So that's why the government actually they have to take an action, okay, and how to curb the inflation. So supaya rate tak terlalu tinggi akan menyebabkan keburukan yang lebih teruk kepada society dan ekonomi. So kita sebagai individu, so kita kena take action lah macam mana kita nak menghadapi masalah inflasi ni instead of just waiting for the government action. Okay.
Okay, thank you Dr. Muna. Saya rasa satu kupasan yang sangat menarik. Tadi kita lihat sendiri dari segi teorinya, dan sekarang bila kita tengok soalan daripada audience pun lebih kepada we relate to the current situation. Kita boleh nampak apa sebenarnya inflasi ini, kesan inflasi itu sendiri, dan bagaimana kita nak atasi inflasi. Kita tengok baru-baru ini Bank Negara pun telah mula naikkan kadar OPR dan semuanya itu untuk membendung kepada inflasi ni. Dari segi ekonomi memang kita belajar, dan satu lagi kalau kita sedia maklum, antara makroekonomi objektif adalah kestabilan harga yang dicapai. So bila adanya inflasi ni ia mengganggu kepada makroekonomi objektif. Sebab kalau kita tahu antara perkara yang sangat disentuh iaitu adalah inflasi dan juga pengangguran. Itulah dua perkara yang sekarang pasca COVID saya panggil kita fokus kepada yang tu. Okay. Thank you Doktor untuk penjelasan yang sangat jelas. Okay.
Terima kasih Doktor.
Okay. Maka sekian sahaja perkongsian kita pada hari ini. Diharapkan ia memberi manfaat. Terima kasih sekali lagi kepada penceramah kita Dr. Siti Nurul Munawara di atas segala info yang sangat berguna. Dan terima kasih juga kepada para pelajar dan hadirin sekalian kerana turut serta dalam menjayakan program kita pada hari ini. Sebelum kita akhiri, saya rasa better kita pergi ke slot untuk bergambar. Mungkin diharapkan semua pelajar pensyarah boleh buka kamera masing-masing untuk kita rakamkan sebagai kenangan. Okey, bergambar. Urus setia, boleh apa? Okay, mohon untuk buka kamera. Okey, terima kasih. Okey, maka saya bagi pihak penganjur memohon ampun dan maaf sekiranya terdapat sebarang kekurangan sepanjang program berlangsung, dan jangan lupa untuk daftar kehadiran anda semua dengan mengisi link Google Form yang disediakan di ruangan chat. Itu sahaja untuk hari ini. Kita berjumpa lagi pada masa hadapan. Terima kasih.
Thank you Dr. Kari, thank you Dr. Amani. Jumpa lagi.
Thank you everyone.
Terima kasih Dr. Muna.
Sama-sama.
Terima kasih juga para pelajar daripada UiTM Cawangan Kelantan dan UiTM Cawangan Terengganu.
Okey, terima kasih.
Terima kasih Dr. Khairi.